Let's talk about a tool that was a total game changer for building on the web. If you've ever wanted to create good-looking, responsive websites, but without having to write a mountain of code from scratch, then you are in exactly the right place. We're going to demystify Bootstrap.
So, if you've ever tried your hand at web development, I'm willing to bet you've felt this pain. You spend hours, maybe days, getting everything to look just right on your computer. And then you pull it up on your phone, and it's a total mess. Everything's broken, overlapping, it's a nightmare. But what if I told you there's a simple fix for that?
And yeah, you guessed it, that solution is Bootstrap. It was basically created to solve this exact problem, to make sure your websites look fantastic on any device, big or small. So what exactly is this thing?
Okay, at its heart, Bootstrap is a completely free toolkit. The best way to think about it is like a giant box of Legos for building websites. Instead of making every single brick yourself, Bootstrap gives you a whole collection of pre-made pieces, buttons, forms, navigation bars, you name it. And the best part, it handles all the tricky, annoying parts of making a site responsive for you right out of the box.
Now, this thing didn't just appear out of nowhere. Believe it or not, it was actually born at Twitter. A couple of developers there, Mark Otto and Jacob Thornton, built it to make their own internal tools look more consistent. Well, when they released it to the public back in 2011, it just exploded. Before long, it became the single most popular project on all of GitHub. Yep, that's a pretty big deal.
So why do so many developers swear by it? Well, the reasons are pretty clear. First off, it's incredibly easy to get started with. If you know a little bit of HTML and CSS, we're good to go. Second, and this is the big one, it's built to be responsive from the ground up with what they call a mobile-first approach. And finally, it takes care of all those weird browser quirks, so your site just works everywhere.
All right, we are now getting to the absolute heart of Bootstrap. This is the secret sauce. If you can wrap your head around this next idea, you will understand what makes this whole thing tick. I'm talking about the responsive grid system. The idea behind the grid is actually really simple. Just imagine that every row on your website is secretly divided into 12 equal-sized columns. That's it. Your only job is to decide how many of those 12 columns each piece of content should take up. You could have one big element that spans all 12, or maybe two elements that each take up 6, or even 3 elements that each take up 4.
So how do you tell your content how many columns to use? You just use these simple CSS classes. The letters in the middle are the key. XS is for extra small devices, phones. SM is for small devices, like tablets. MD is for medium, desktops. And LG is for those really big desktop monitors. This lets you design layouts that can completely change depending on the screen size.
Let's look at a super quick code example. We've got one row here, and inside it, we've got 3 different elements. Notice they all have the class call_4. Now, why 4? Because we want 3 equal columns, and 12 divided by 3 is 4. It's just simple math. On a tablet screen or bigger, these will line up as 3 perfect columns.
And just like that, here's what you get. That tiny bit of code we just saw produces this clean, perfectly spaced layout. No complicated CSS, no calculating percentages yourself. You just tell Bootstrap what you want, and it does all the heavy lifting for you. That is the magic of the grid. Okay, so you get the grid. But how do you actually start a brand new project? Well, it's incredibly simple. Let's quickly run through the absolute must-haves for any Bootstrap page.
You really only need 3 things to get started. First, the standard HTML5 doc type. That just tells the browser what it's looking at. Second, and this one is absolutely critical, you need the viewport meta tag. This little line of code is what tells phones not to mess up your site's scaling. And finally, all of your visible content needs to live inside one main container.
Now, speaking of that container, you've got 2 main flavors to choose from. The regular doc container is kind of like a framed picture. It has some nice, clean margins on the left and right. But if you want your content to stretch all the way from edge to edge, like for a big background image, you use doc container fluid. Most sites end up using a mix of both.
So, besides the grid, one of the biggest time savers in Bootstrap is its huge library of pre-styled components. You can make your site look incredibly polished with almost no effort. Let me show you a few quick examples.
Need to use color to get a point across? Well, instead of writing your own CSS, Bootstrap gives you these simple helper classes. For example, just add the class .text-success to some text, and boom, it turns green. Perfect for a confirmation message. It's a super fast way to keep your styles consistent.
Or how about this? Let's say you need to highlight some text. You don't even need a special class for that. You just use the standard HTML mark tag, and Bootstrap automatically gives it this nice, clean, yellow background. It styles a lot of common elements for you by default.
And here's another cool little detail. If you ever need to show a keyboard command, like telling someone to press Ctrl+P, just wrap it in the KBD tag. Bootstrap automatically styles it to look like an actual key on a keyboard. It's those little thoughtful touches that really make it shine.
All right, enough talk. The absolute best way to learn this stuff is just to do it. So let's bring all these ideas together and build a really simple one-page website to see just how quickly we can get a great result.
Okay, first up, our main header section. We'll start with a div. We want it to be full width, so we'll give it the container fluid class. And we want the text in the middle, so we'll add text center. That green background color is just a little custom class we'll call .bg1.
Next, let's tackle that profile picture. Right now it's just a square, which is fine, but a circular image would look much more polished. So, watch this. All we do is add a single class to the image tag, .img-circle. That's it. Done. Bootstrap does the rest.
From here on out, it's pretty much rinse and repeat. We'll just build out the rest of the page by adding a couple more full-width sections using container fluid, and we'll give each one a unique background color. And to give the content some breathing room, we'll apply a little bit of padding to each container. For the final touch, let's add a button. We'll create a link and give it the .btn class to make it look like a button, and .btn-lg to make it a little bigger. And see that little search icon inside? That's just a simple span with one of Bootstrap's special icon classes. And there you have it. In just a couple of minutes, using a handful of Bootstrap's built-in classes and a tiny bit of our own CSS for the colors, we put together a clean, modern, and fully responsive web page. That is the kind of speed and power that Bootstrap brings to the table.
You know, at the end of the day, Bootstrap's real strength is that it gets all the boring, repetitive stuff out of your way. It lets you stop messing with pixels and start focusing on what really matters, your ideas. We've only really scratched the surface of what it can do, but you now have the foundation to start exploring. So the only real question left is, what are you going to build first?